My name's Luke. I'm going to be doing my presentation on sports analysis, and this should just be giving you an insight on the 6 areas of sports performance. Okay, as we start off here, what my sport is football, and the position that I'm going to be analysing is midfield, more to be precise, a central midfielder, and one of the key areas within that is long passing, and a good method of long passes by using a technique called the drive pass. My reasons for analysing this is because I have a background in sport, and it's a thing that I'm very knowledgeable about and passionate, and it's something that I'd like to analyse and learn more about. So that's why I've put this presentation together. So I'm just going to go into that now. Right, we move on to the technical side of things. With technical, as you can see, one of the key performance factors in football for a midfield player is passing, different variations of this and different ranges. I've focused, as I said, on the drive pass. In this area and what it takes to complete a successful pass, this is a key pass for a midfielder, as executing this pass can sort of change attack into defence and create a goal scoring opportunity. A key points to the success of a drive pass is by placing, as you can see with the picture there, placing your non-kicking foot by the side of the ball at an extended angle, and then what you need to be doing is you need to be getting as much lift back as you can with the opposite leg, and then with that, then what you're doing is you're going to kick the ball. As you can see here, you're going to kick the ball right in the middle on the equator. This is what we call the equator. It's sort of the same as a round shape as what you'd say with the Earth, and you have the equator line, which is the middle, and this then creates then a great amount of force going through the ball. Using the latest part of the ball to do this, when actually coming in contact with the ball, is a great way of doing this, because it gives you power, and it also gives you that straight line speed that you need, and accuracy when following through. So you want to be leaning back with your weight as well to increase the elevation of the pass. Basically, all this information I have got from this, and the technique, and the reason why I've said that it changes from defence into attack, because I've got this from an authoritative source, as you can see, from UEFA.com. So this is from UEFA, which is actually the European governing body for football, where they have actually done a video on drive pass, and players such as Beckham and other players like that have made these sort of passes in a game, which have led to goal scoring opportunities or goal being scored. A data of gathering this, as I said, a way that I'd gather data is by setting up a test, such as a drill, for a participant to complete 10 drive passes. We do this over a distance of around about 40 metres by setting a 2-metre gate. So literally, we'd set it up so we'd have a 2-metre gate, we'd have the participant down the other end of the field, and we'd get him completing the drive pass and seeing if it actually goes in between that area, because that's the area which we're going to say which participant we want to receive it with a limited amount of space that you do have in a football game. Because if it's any further than that, it could be that it's intercepted, or the players went onto it, had a heavy touch, and the ball's been lost. So you're going to want to try and get it as close to the player that you're trying to create that pass to, for it to be as successful as possible. I think this is suitable because it allows me to actually analyse how well this player can execute this pass, and it's also a test which is leading on to the same topic of which I'm on with the drive pass and the ranges of passing, and the different variations of that. So we're just going to move on to the next slide. As you can see, we have tactical. Within tactical, you have a style of play. A style of play can be key to success in football, with creating chances for potential goal scoring opportunities. That's exactly what teams want. Teams want the most successful way to be able to get the ball at the other end of the pitch and score goals. That is the key part. That is the key part in football. Because if you can't score goals, then how are you going to win football matches? All of this here, as you can see, is referenced on Football Science website. That is all references on that website from published authors sports and medical science journals, and etc. etc. On the website, it clearly states that from the last 2 World Cups that there have been more goals scored from a longer passing style of play, than a longer possession style of play, which was, longer possession resulted in more shots per possession. But however, the strike ratio of goals, so the more goals that were scored, resulted in the style of play which is called direct play, which is a more direct play, as you can see here. So from playing that long key pass into that one person, getting people around them to support them and getting them shot off, or it could just be that you sent that one person through and they score a goal. So with this, it clearly shows to me that a key performance factor such as long passing as a style of play, by using a pass such as the drive pass, you're more likely to score, as it's been proven in the last 2 World Cups, and that all that information is on that website. A good way of gathering data, which I think for doing this, would be to actually get a participant or player involved in a match and get them playing these passes and seeing how much success they, observe the game and see how much success they actually have throughout the game with this style of play by making those long critical passes into the players, into the front men or the wide men on the wings, across the pitch, up the pitch, direct, by using that direct style of play, and see how many chances that actually creates by using those tactics. That's basically the reason why I think it's suitable as well, because it's still referring to the topic that we're on, the tactical, which is a style of play by using long passing, and also it's putting it into a game situation. So it's also, it's actually putting it out there. If it's going to work in a game, then you know that it's going to work. Instead of you just devising a test, you're actually devising this into a game situation, as I've said. So we're just going to move on to the next slide. As you can see, this one we've gone for physical. So this is another key area within sports profiling. Differences that were shown within players were seen in strength and power measurements, such as counter movements with jumping and leg extensions. So as you can see, what they mean by leg extensions is the power at which the leg extends through the ball as you're kicking the ball. Further information, as I said, on this, still on the same website, Football Science, great website. It's got all the references on there of where all this information comes from, so it can all be tracked back. The information basically states on there that to improve the physical capacity of players, influence technical ability, mainly increase pass rates. So with the long variation of passing, if you have more power, more leg extension through there, it's going to be the further the distance. For example, if you're looking to play a 50, 60 yard pass, it could be extremely lengthy pass that you're trying to set your striker onto the ball, set them through on goal, which could create a goal scoring opportunity, which could win you the match. If you haven't got enough power in your legs and you're only made to kick that 40 yards, it could possibly get intercepted by a defender. So for you to make longer passes, and the key to that pass succession is actually having the power in your legs, to make those long passes anyway of the 40, 50, 60 yards over the pitch. Such a great example of this we've got here, Frank Lampard. Players like him, Gerrard, have been doing this for years. We've been playing those key passes over the top, 40, 50 yards, direct football, and goals have been scored and created from it. Also, you really need the power on your legs just to continue to do this over a 90-minute match with the creatine phosphate system. Data, a good way of testing this is testing for the explosive power. So we have explosive power tests. We have tests such as the sergeant jump test. This is basically where you can get a participant stood. You can basically get a participant stood on a mat. They have a belt around their waist, which they have a string which you tighten up, and it's tight. So when you jump, it's up to their waist when they're stood, the rope, and it's nice and tight. So you drop down on your knees, and you're jumping up, and you're pushing through, and seeing how high you can actually get up in the air, and that tests the explosive strength within the legs and how much power there is. This also, with this test as well, it also provides lots of normative data, so we can interpret the results So that's why I think it's suitable. It's suitable as we can, as I've said, we can basically, we've got loads of normative data which we can interpret the results, and it's basically a good way of testing the explosive power within the legs, and we can do it with the facilities that we have, as there is already one available to us. Right, now we move on to physiological. Basically the information about this, I've gone to sportsscientists.com. This basically has a lot of published medical journal information in this. It's all referenced from those, and I've basically just put this sort of into my words from the information of which I've picked up off the website. Basically with physiological, you're looking at your heart rate and your lung function. So you're looking at the capacity of which your heart can pump blood around the body, and the capacity of how your lung functions to release air to bring it back in, to oxygenise the blood, and then the heart pump it round to deliver that to the muscles. I think this is a key factor for a midfield player. As on this website here, it does actually show you that a midfield player covers the most distance of any other position on the pitch. So for you to actually cover that amount of distance on the football pitch out of all the positions, it is key that a midfield player, with him making drive passes, is making sure that through those 90 minutes, when he's running around and covering that distance, he's still using aerobic activity. Because of making the drive pass and the power within that, it's all anaerobic activity. You're using your creatine phosphate system, you're using a system where you're not actually using oxygen to be able to make that pass and that explosive movement. So if you were to say not be fit enough, and you were covering this distance, and then say a pass that you made in the 10th minute where you made that key pass, you come to do it in the 50th, 60th minute, and you've been running around a lot, and because your lung capacity and lung function aren't capable of sustaining that amount of exercise over that period of time, then you're going to start moving from oxygenating activity, from the aerobic, into a state of where you're going to be moving into anaerobic activity, and this creates lactic acid. This will tire the muscles out. So when you're going to be making those passes, it could be that you're going to make that pass, the pass doesn't go as far as what you expect, it only goes 20-30 yards, and then that's a potential interception, ball's been given away, and then you're having to cause your team more chasing and it doesn't help at all. As I've said through here, with the data to test for lung function, we can gather performance data. We can get them to complete a peak flow test or a spirometer test. Peak flow test will basically see how fast the air can be expelled from the lungs. Spirometer will test the air intaken within the lungs and the amount of air expelled as well at one time. Another test which we can do, which is cheap, simple, very easy, is the Cooper run test, which basically you get something to run over an 800 metre period of 8 minutes and see how far they can run over that amount of time, how far they ran, and there's plenty of normative data upon all of these tests. That's why I think it's suitable, because they're all tests which are available. Spirometer we may have to look into a bit more, but with the peak flow and the Cooper run test, they are all things that you can do straight away. They're all facilities that are available to us, and they're cheap tests to run. So if you're looking to just somebody at participant level, then they are very useful to use, and as I said, plenty of normative data to interpret the results to come up with a score on the performance profile which would be suitable to them. So we're just going to move on to psychological now. As a football player, you need to learn how to channel aggression. This is key in midfield, as midfield it clearly shows in the results in many websites, Sports Scientist, one that we refer back to, but it is key that you're channeling that aggression and that you're not letting it get the better of yourself, as midfielders are making them, you're making just as many tackles as defenders, and they're also getting tackled a lot as well. The same with what strikers do, as much as anybody else on the pitch. There's such a key area in the field. So if it comes to it within, you need to sort of use your aggression as a positive thing in football and use it as assertiveness. With using it as assertiveness, this will help a player peak their performance by challenging by channeling that anger into their gameplay, this should help. This generally helps players be more positive and help a midfield player, play those say midfield players sort of play those direct passes forward instead of if they become angry, lethargic, and they basically just do not want to have a positive aspect on the game. They're going to be passing the ball sideways and back instead of playing those balls which could potentially win you the game. I've referred this by the information provided to me by Tom Bates off the website 442.com. This basically where they've done performance and they've done psychology about channeling aggression positive. He believes that this is a professional coach, works at West Bromwich Albion Football Club, Premiership club, so at the highest level. Believes that if you figure a player's trigger, so you know where they're going to lose control, that you can use a sign. A sign that he uses is by using 5. So you put the hands there, you say 5 minutes to the player. So whether you're holding up the fingers and you're saying 5 to them, this will then trigger something within the player's mind, and they think, right, we've got 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, they generally tend to then that the player will work harder for the next 5 minutes and ensure that everything about their game is correct, or that their shape, their work rate, and what kind of passes that they are making. A good way that Tom Bates has advised of sort of gaining this information from them and sort of seeing how positive their thoughts are within that is actually just sitting down with the player and gathering the information from them by literally doing a future forecast. This means that getting the player to think about what they see when they get angry and what effect that will have on the team, whether it's been if you lose anger and you lose control of that anger, then if you let that build up and get the better of you, then your team is going to have negative effects. Because with you getting sent off from making a bad tackle, that then puts your team a player down. So then you can get a player to name the positives as well by channeling that aggression into assertiveness. So I think that's a suitable way of doing it. Is you can just sit down. There's no cost involved with sitting down, having a chat with the player, and getting them to think about how they channel their thing, and getting them to name those negatives and positives within channeling aggression and losing control of aggression. So next you've got the biomechanical. As you see with biomechanical, it's about basically observing the structure of a player's physique as they're kicking the ball. So as you can see here, with the foot placed against there, how much weight they're planting into forces, what their leg extension's like, how their body shape is when they're kicking the ball. This is basically the biomechanics of kicking a football. And now the advantage of which players use this is to analyse a video and see how their angles are with them using that technique, and what they can basically do to make that technique better, and what they can do as a performance for themselves to use it as an advantage on the pitch. So this means passing techniques such as the drive pass, by actually checking the displacement within the movement of their body, and also checking the velocity as well of which their leg is released at when kicking that ball. And this is by Adam Hearn, which is the professional coach again at Peterborough United Football Club, which is at a professional level. A basic way of gathering data of this, because you can use Dartfish or Coach's Eye. You use both of these programs to slow down the movement in a recorded video and actually do exactly what's been done here with the angles. I think this is very suitable, as Coach's Eye is a very cheap but useful and effective app which you can buy on your phone for $2.99, and this basically then allows you to improve the performance, if you will. Intrinsic factors, okay, which moving on to this now. An intrinsic factor that might actually have an effect on a performance within the game with previous injury history. So, for example, if a player may have broken their leg, such as Jack Wilshere, he broke his ankle, and it's taken